read that while I'm blathering. One of the fun things that I like to put together, Data Driven Detroit is a data repository. We bring all of these data into one place, and then we work with our community to, again, make that actionable. But I didn't realize when I started at Data Driven Detroit as the second employee back in 2009, early 2009, there are lots of places to find data, and it can be incredible. So things like we've mentioned the census this morning, right? We've also got American Community Survey, Population Estimates, Census Explorer. We've got HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We've got the National Center for Education Statistics. There's even more federal sources, right? Then you layer in the state. So I have, of course, I'm from Michigan, right? You bring in the Michigan State Police, who have traffic data and arrest data, and Michigan.gov, and our business licensing entity, and you layer all that on. And then you go, oh wait, there's a whole nother layer, right? So you've got your county, you've got your local municipality, and you bring all this together, and it's like, what am I gonna do with all of this? You need to have somebody who actually understands where all of these are and how to bring them together, right? But that's not the only data that we care about. I'm wearing a Fitbit this morning. We mentioned earlier heart rates and taking steps and all of that. We're generating data all the time. We've got dispersed administrative sources. Every time you apply for a business permit, that generates a point of data. Every time you buy a house, that generates a point of data, or rent an apartment. There are so many different places to find data, and some of those are still locked down. That can be a huge challenge. Quality of schools, right? Understanding if we don't have neighborhood schools anymore, there are kids who live in a community and travel to another place to go and attend that school. Their test scores that are at that school reflect nothing about the neighborhood that those kids actually live in, right? So understanding those data can be really critical, and they're really difficult to crack out of the educational system. Privacy concerns and so on. Health data is another one. We don't have a lot of health data at Data Driven Detroit because there are HIPAA rules where it's actually kind of concerning to deal with privacy of people's personal health information. So you need to do that responsibly. Some data are still on paper. In Detroit, we have this problem a lot. We have a lot of stuff that's recorded only on paper and then filed away in these massive warehouses, which can be challenging. So if you are a computer geek or working on spreadsheets and you want to actually utilize that information, it can be hard. And so we talked about oral histories this morning and sort of the stories that we have collectively as a community. That doesn't often exist. In rooms like this, they come out and it's amazing and it can be really useful, but it's not often captured in a data set that can be used by all of us to understand our communities and where to go from here. So how do we actually get informed? One of the things I love to refer to is this data smog. There's data everywhere, and some of those logo pictures show you that. So how do we actually synthesize this information in a way that's meaningful to everyone? And that's what my organization, Data Driven Detroit, does. Our mission, as Darlene mentioned earlier, is to provide accessible, high-quality information and analysis to drive informed decision-making. Does that mean a lot to everyone? Probably not. It's a long sentence, but mission statements are like that. Our vision is that essential and unbiased information is used by all. And when I say all, I mean all. It's not just the companies who have billions of dollars to spend on creating actionable information from all the different data that are out there. It's you, it's my community, it's our government, it's our universities, our nonprofit organizations, our block clubs, our neighborhood watches, and so on. We do this by sort of 4 different key activities that we do at Data Driven Detroit. So, data collection and management, big part of that, right? Bringing all that data into one place. We do visualization because pictures can tell stories better than spreadsheets can. And we do analysis to actually, again, make that into real information. And we do accessibility work at Data Driven Detroit. So, events like this. We do data workshops. We present on our tools. We actually do workshops where we show people where to find data and then how to use that themselves, so that we're sort of the teach a man to fish kind of mentality, right? I don't need to always be doing the data work for you. I want you to be able to do the data work for yourself. And we do all of that in the name of data-driven outcomes. So, I'm going to tell a little story today about data and data in our community in Detroit. Back in 2009, when we were first formed, technically it was October of '08, but we didn't have staff until I came in February of '09. But in the very first year of our existence, we were very proud to become an NNIP partner, which is great. And we also participated in this huge survey, it was the first survey ever in Detroit of the physical condition of urban property in the city of Detroit. We did 350,000 parcels. We looked at the type of housing that was on residential lots only, and if there wasn't a building left, we reported, so zoning of properties, if it was residentially zoned but no longer had a home on it, we reported that it was a vacant lot. We looked at the condition of those properties, whether there was fire damage visible from the outside. We looked at occupancy, and we also looked at whether it was vacant, open, and dangerous. So did it have the boarding on the sides if it was a vacant property, or was it open to the elements? So we did that in '09. We used those data for over 4.5 years in Detroit because, as you might imagine, that was a massive undertaking. 350,000 properties, took us months on end to go out and get all the information. By the time we were done in the field, or by the time we left one block and moved on to another one, I can assure you the data were out of date. But it was the best that we had, and it was an amazing resource to work with community, to work with small groups, to, again, do that level setting around, here's what we found in your neighborhood. Please reflect back to us if we need to correct that information, and then let's work together to actually create an action plan for what it is you want to see for your community. That was critical for us for years. Then, in 2013 perhaps, the Detroit Blight Removal Task Force was established, which was our resident billionaire, Dan Gilbert. For those of you who haven't heard of him, he runs this crazy place called Quicken Loans in Rock Ventures. And he's involved a lot in Detroit and in Cleveland. And he had gone to the White House and said, you know, you guys can fix all you want in Detroit, but until you deal with the blight issue, you're not going to be able to turn anything around in Detroit. So they said, okay, great, put your money where your mouth is, literally and figuratively. And go ahead and get a task force put together to determine what should be done for blight interventions in Detroit. Create a plan to remove all of it in the next 5 years. Go for it, man. So he did, and there was a local task force established. It was officially 3 co-chairs, but really a table of 40, 50 people across all sectors, the public sector for sure at multiple levels, private corporations like his, our public utilities were in there, the local foundations. We have a very strong philanthropic community in Detroit. Our nonprofit organizations and several others, even folks from HUD, were sitting at the table. And one of the first questions that Dan Gilbert asked was, okay, we're gonna create this plan, it's gonna be great. How much blight is there? Everyone went, oh no, we don't know. Okay, well, how do we know how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take to remove it if we don't know how much there is? So someone at the table, luckily, we were working on a pilot project at the time where we were using this new app that was still under development to survey and actually teach residents to survey their own neighborhoods and understand the condition there, hoping that eventually we'd be able to update that '09 data with lots of community groups getting involved and collecting the information on their own because they were using it to advocate for their own neighborhoods. So we were working on that pilot project at the time. Luckily, one of the funders of that project was sitting at the task force table and said, wait, I think I know who can help you. Data Driven Detroit has lots of data. I bet they know how much blight there is. So unfortunately, we didn't, right? If you look at all those different administrative sources, I could come up with 10 different answers, and I knew none of them would be right. So when we got to the table, I said, yep, I can give you this number, I can give you that number, it won't tell you where it is, so that's going to be really hard to actually remove all the blight. If I can give you a number, and you can estimate how much it will cost, sort of. Or you can let us go out and survey the entire community. And they said, okay, get started on Monday. So that was fun. Funny thing is, oh good, they're showing up nicely. Okay, so this was one of the convincing factors for why the '09 data are really not viable. This is a home in Detroit. Keep an eye on the one on the right. Here is a year later, 2 years after that, and a year and a half after that. Same spot. I can't do that again. Here we go. All right, here we go. The one on the right.
What year is that?
This is September of '08. September '09, October 2011, September 2013. So, this is not the only place this is happening, and I will say there is a reverse trajectory in some places as well. Yes, sir.
What happened to the house next door?
Yeah. Also gone
So they both simultaneously just,
within a 2-year period, Yep. Or 3 years.
Yes.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, 'cause the one on the left doesn't look so bad.
they don't look so bad. They just
At this point, I don't know if you probably can't see it. Those windows are busted open. That is, it's definitely abandoned by 2009. Yeah. So this is what happens in Detroit, and I'm sure many other places. We are facing this. Hi. Yeah. Sorry.
Was the house tore down by the city of Detroit, or did the house get burned down? How did it end up done?
It's a great question, and I can't answer it because we didn't have the data.